What's going on, everyone? It's been a while since the last long form video, so I wanted to make another one to just cover all of the updates I've been working on recently, especially when it comes to character movement and animations and states. I've also started some basic work on the UI, so I'm just going to go over everything I've done over the last couple of months, all the things I'm currently working on, and what I'm working on next. I would say one of the biggest changes to the movement system since the last video is that now we only dash horizontally. It makes the movement feel a lot tighter, and considering it's not a pure platformer, there's attacking and boss fights coming later down the line, it makes sense to curb the movement a little bit. Overall, the game itself just feels a lot smoother to play now. One of the main factors was making sure the momentum carries across all the different states. There'd be some scenarios where I'd wall jump and just come straight off the wall and hit like an invisible wall and drop. Whereas now as you're playing, the game will flow. So as you jump off a wall, you'll carry that momentum. All these little things are such a big difference, and it adds a really nice polish to the movement. One thing I did do, which you may notice, is slow everything down a bit. As I started to add test platforms and move through the level, everything just felt a little bit too quick. The difference is definitely significant enough to notice if you put them side by side. So the character feels a lot more weighty, but you can still move through the level at a good pace, especially with dashing. There's quite a few new states that I've added to the character. Movement-wise, one of the new states is a slide. So if you're dashing along the floor, you'll now slide. And if you jump at the right time, you'll get a big arcing jump at the end of it. This is one of the things I didn't even plan for. It kind of just came while playtesting and realizing that as I was dashing along the floor, I was kind of just stopping. And obviously with the momentum, that doesn't make any sense. So the slide just makes it a lot smoother. The next biggest change is the attack system. I have a whole new attack system that I built, very different from the original one that I had in the first video. Originally, I wanted to do like a boomerang projectile similar to Rayman 1, but as much as I tried, I just couldn't quite get the visuals right, and it didn't feel right when I was playing it. To be honest, it was really frustrating because I really wanted it, but I just couldn't get it to work. So I went back to the drawing board, and I loved the projectile aspect of it, but I felt like it needed a limit. I've never really enjoyed being able to just run and gun through a platformer. So it has a similar limitation that I had in the first system, where when you fire the projectile, you can't fire another one until that one either expires or hits something. I really like it that way because it adds some weight to when you attack. You have to be a little bit more strategic, and you can't just run through the level spamming the attack button 24/7. So I think that adds a little bit more challenge to the game. But it's funny because I don't think I ever would have got to this attack system if I hadn't have played around with the first one, because I still have so many components from it, like the charging attack, the fact it's a projectile. This time it just doesn't boomerang, it expires when it collides with something or after a certain distance. I still have the charging mechanic and the basis of the animation that I was going to do before, and I'm really happy with how it looks. It feels great to play. So yeah, really happy with the attack system. The camera was giving me a lot of issues. I was trying to, and actually did implement a really nice camera with look ahead, and it would change direction when the character changed direction. But I ran into so many issues with jittering. Because it's a pixel art game, to stop jittering, you need to snap things to pixels. And not to get too technical, but as the camera moves along, if you snap it, it will just be jagged. If you move it smoothly, which is lerping in Godot, everything else becomes jagged because that's snapping to pixels. So eventually I just went back to the basic Godot camera that's following the character. It works well, I'm happy with it, and I can still do 99% of the things I need to do, like locking it to boss rooms, detaching it from the character for a cutscene. But it's one of those things, and I can't stress this enough about building this game so far, is experimentation of trying to implement something has always led me to a better solution using the foundations that I built before. So when I have an idea, as long as it's not going to take me weeks to build, I'm just prototyping, testing, and that eventually leads me to a good place and a good solution for all these different features. A small one was the debug screen I added. At the moment, it just shows FPS, but I'm going to add a load of stuff to it later. But it's nice to be able to toggle that in the game and turn it on and off instead of having the FPS just float in there, which I had before. And there's a bunch of other diagnostics that I'll eventually add to that screen, but it's not high priority. It's mainly for later when I start to build out the levels. I want to check like CPU usage, GPU usage, and all that kind of stuff. Another cool one I added was a wall lean animation. So instead of just walking into the wall forever, my character has a nice lean. You might also notice my character now has health, which leads me onto the death zone. By death zone, I mean the area where if you fall off the map, you just die. I was working on 2 different approaches to this. I have both solutions and I still can't decide which one is better. One of them is like a physical zone. It's an actual component that we add across the bottom of the level. And when we collide with it, that's when we die. The other option is just setting a certain Y value in the level script and basically just checking the character's Y position against that. And if we go lower than that, we die. They both seem to work, so I haven't quite decided. I think later down the line, as I build the level, I'll slowly figure out which one is better just based on whatever I need to do. But character health and death zones means we can be hit and die, which leads me on to my red square test enemies. So I added these little test enemies into the game, which do 1 damage if I come into contact with them. And these test enemies are great because they have the foundational script that I can use across pretty much every enemy in the game going forward. All I'll need to do is just adjust how much damage they do and if they have health at some point as well. But one of the biggest character states I had to build was the hit state. So the health of the character is controlled centrally in the player script, and that contacts the hit state. And this is the state that I'm probably the most proud of. I'm really happy with all the layers that I had to add in to get this to look good and feel good. There's impact frames, there's animation, there's particles, there's a screen shake, there's shader flashing. There's also a really cool slowdown when you take damage for the first time and you're coming back out of it. Also iframes, meaning there's a certain amount of time when you take damage that you can't take damage anymore. Originally, I was just showing and hiding the sprite for that flash and iframe effect, but it was so hard on the eyes. So eventually I changed it so the opacity goes to around 20%, so it's not like a harsh sudden flash on and off, and it looks way better now. Also, when I added screen shake, because it's something I tend to always turn off in games, I wanted to make sure I added an option in the menu to turn it off, because for some people, including myself, it can be super annoying if it isn't done right. But I personally think the way I've done it here is a nice balance. Before I move on, if you're wondering how all the technical side of this works, I have a devlog series where I do short videos on each feature I build, and in that I go into a lot more detail into like how all these things tie together, some of the code examples. As this is more of like an overview progress video, I'm just going through the features, but the devlog series I'll put somewhere on the screen and you can click into those and just search for it for any of these things I'm talking about. And yeah, hopefully if you're building a game or you just want to learn more about how I did it, then you can see there. So the character having health, the hit state, and the death zone leads me on to the death state itself. And again, I'm really proud of this state because it incorporates a lot of the layers that I added into the hit state, but it also includes a few different things surrounding the level reload and visually showing the player a few different things to interact with the game. So the death state has a bigger impact frame that plays alongside the one from the hit state to add a bit more punch to that final blow of your health. And it breaks down into a couple of components. So you have the particles leaving the character to show that energy is leaving him, and then once the character dissipates, we have particles that come in from the world and build up a death crystal. The cool thing about the death crystal, which I haven't actually done yet, is when you respawn from death, you'll be able to find, break, and get some of your collectibles back. Similar to how if you die in Dark Souls or Elden Ring, your souls are just left in that location and you have to go and get them back. Without giving away too many future spoilers, you're definitely going to want as many of your collectibles as possible when you reach the boss of each level. Speaking of collectibles, I literally just started working on them over the last couple of days. We've got a little UI label in there that works as you go through the level and collect them, but I still need to add visuals and a few other little features to them, so that'll be a while yet. Story-wise, I've made some progress on the dialogue of the opening cutscene. I already have the story beats across the entire game pretty much nailed, but the dialogue is something that I'm fleshing out, and like the intricacies of cutscenes and how we tell the story through visuals and dialogue and all these different components. So the opening cutscene is in a really good place, and hopefully I can start working on that before the end of the year. What's next? What's next? What's next? What's next is the UI needs to not look like just words and horrible font. And that goes for the in-game UI and across all of the menus. I have a really cool idea for how I want the menus to look and feel. I've also got a lot of work on saving and loading to do, especially when it comes to respawning from a death. So as I mentioned the death crystal earlier, I need to be able to save the position of the death crystal and save the amount of collectibles you have and give you a portion of that back in the death crystal. So there's a lot of little things, and also like the transition. I fade to black at the end of of the def transition. So I want to detect if you're reloading the game from a def and fade up from black. Obviously, saving and loading will be tied into checkpoints, and that will be tied into a load save screen, and there's a lot to do, but yeah, that's what's coming next. I'm hoping I can get into some character sound effects before the next video. For the music production side, I've got a lot of learning I need to do. I've got myself some music equipment and some software, so I just need to dedicate a little bit of time to sitting down and learning how to produce some cool video game music. So yeah, that's the plans coming up. I'll hopefully have another long form video for you fairly soon. In the meantime, I'm uploading the devlogs as much as I can, and also just want to say thank you for all the support. There's a lot of new faces in here since the last video, which is great to see. There's a lot of really nice feedback and a lot of constructive feedback, which is great. It's one of the main reasons I wanted to document this whole process of learning how to build a game. So yeah, to all the new faces in here, welcome, thank you, and I'll see you soon.